Are critical hits a good idea? In this video, I go through the math and show you why critical hits may not be what you really want. Critical hits. So in an earlier video, I showed how I calculated hit and miss probability and expected value for just using Excel, with the two rows. So this chart comes from the that video. But let's talk about normal damage. Let's assume that you've got a creature attacking your character, and the creature's got a weapon that does 1 to 8 points of damage, or D8 damage. So what are the odds that it would, if it hits you? So here, this is the armor class of your character, armor class 1 through, goes over to 20. And how much damage would it do if it rolled a 1 and it rolled a 1 on the damage? How much damage would it actually do? And so if it rolled a 1 and it's to hit is a 1, then it would do 1 point of damage because that's there. If your armor class is 2, then we see how it gives 0 out here. So this is a very simple comparison using if in Excel. It says if our armor class is greater than our die roll, we get 0 points. Otherwise, we get how much for our damage. So we can scroll down to the bottom, and then at the bottom, we total up all the damage. We total up how many things there are. How many rows have values in them. So we know that the die is from 1 to 20, and it's the first die, and the second die is 1 from 8. So there's 160. This gives us our average, and then I just repeat the armor class across. So this is normal damage. Now then, 4th edition did something a little interesting. In 4th edition of Dungeons & Dragons, what happened is when you roll, it's the same basic idea with this chart, but the equation's a little bit different. If you roll a 20, you always get max damage. It's worded kind of odd in the player's handbook, but it's you actually get so if you have a 1 to 8, on your weapon, that you'd get max damage. So what does this produces numbers a little bit different than the normal damage, as we see here. I'll show you how they compare. In 5th edition, it changes once again. And in essence, if you roll a 20, you actually roll a 3rd die, which I simulate here by just going through 1 through 8. So this gets to a little bit larger chart here. And we see, there's 1280, and we see this. So this gives us our comparison. So with normal, this is our expected value is 4.5, and it goes down as the armor class increases, sort of what you'd expect. That's your expected damage per attack. And with critical, what I call critical max, that's 4th edition. And with 5th edition, it's critical die. That's there. So if we compare, we'll come back to this in a minute and talk about the other columns. But if we compare that and we look at the chart, here's our expected damage per attack, and going all the way down for armor class 20. And it's sort of what we expect. So the blue one is the normal, and the orange one is 4th edition, and the gray one is 5th edition. So we see there's a minor change in 5th edition. It's a little bit, we can see from this chart that it's a little bit worse. But let's go back to our comparison. If instead of just looking at the numbers, we see what's the delta, and this is constant, as we see. It's always 0.18. This is only just 0.2 digits of accuracy. And for the delta with a die, it's 0.23. So as we see here, it's there. But that's if we look at it this way. But if we look at it a different way, think about this. If you're armor class 20, the amount of extra damage is significant. The ratio of the extra damage to the damage that you'd normally take for a critical hit is significantly more than the ratio here, than the ratio for a low armor class. And that's what this chart shows. So this is where we calculate the percentage change. So if you're armor class 3, it's only, it says in 4th edition, it's only 4% more if it's a critical. If in 5th edition, it's 6% more. But let's plot this out. So the first thing we see here is the yellow line is 4th edition and the blue line is 5th edition. What it means is in 5th edition, if you're a fighter and the DM is using critical hits on his roll, you take more than twice as much damage on a critical hit than a magic user down here in the low, as a percentage of the damage. So this is heavily skewed against people wearing armor or monsters with heavier armor if you play the other side, if you're attacking. So in essence, critical hits don't, if they're an animal or they have a low armor class rating, critical hits don't make that big of a difference. They're less than 10% until you get to armor class 11. And then it starts to go up, and even there, it only gets to 20% at armor class 16. But above that, the amount of damage you can expect significantly increases in comparison to the normal damage. So what this says is that if you're playing a fighter, you don't want the DM to use critical hits. You want them to say, no, we'll do the house rule. We'll just do normal attack, because otherwise it seriously affects your chances of survival, because you will take, on average, if you're armor class 20, you've got, plate and shield and some extra bonuses. What happens is that critical hits are terrible for you. And if you're a magic user down here with the low armor class, you go, okay, what difference does it make? It has very minor impact on you, but it's heavily biased toward the magic user and against the fighter. So I'm not really sure that critical hits are a good idea. If you like my video, press the thumbs up button. I'd appreciate that. Or if this interests you, you can always subscribe to my channel. There's a button right above. I look forward to hearing some comments. Tell me what you think about this, and I'll try and reply, and we can see if I'll do some more of these. Thank you.